Hello, good evening and welcome to IMPort here on Metropolitan Television. IMPort is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, GWEL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and our media partner is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. Now, if you want to have a grasp of all that transpired on the show tonight, make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show tonight. Tonight, we are streaming live on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are streaming live at IMPort. Now, we shall be getting interactive with you. And so all you have to do is sit back, relax, and grab your phones and send us your messages and comments via our dedicated WhatsApp line, which is 0538-037353. 0538-037353. Now, when the time is ripe, and I pick signals from the production team, we shall activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. We're going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with the show. Please stay with us.
Good energy brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP. Available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a Goil station today and energize your ride with Goil Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. Goil Super XP will feel ya, huh? Will be feel. Goil, good energy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302-246-319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, so welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry during the past week. And so would like to inform you that the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has a new Director General, and he's hit the ground running with some activities in the port. We'll tell you what it is pretty shortly, plus the fact that, yes, Meridian Port Services MPS has also launched an alternative livelihood project to support some 100 beneficiaries in coastal communities. Details coming up pretty shortly, plus the fact that, yes, the IMO, in collaboration with the Ghana Maritime Authority, also held a workshop to develop a national action plan for decarbonization in Ghana. We'll tell you what we know about that. Please enjoy.
Brigadier General Paul Seydou Tanya Kulono has assumed office as the Acting Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, following his appointment by President John Dramani Mahama earlier this week. He takes over from Michael Achagua Luguje, who served as the authority's Director General since 2018. To commence his tenure, Brigadier General Tanya Kulono held a preliminary meeting with GPHA management and the leadership of staff unions last Tuesday. The engagements allowed both parties to familiarize themselves with each other and reaffirm their shared commitment to advancing the authority's mandate. On Wednesday, the new Director General was formally introduced to the entire workforce at a brief gathering held at the forecourt of the Marine Department. He was received with warmth and respect by staff members who welcomed his leadership. Addressing the workforce, Brigadier General Tanya Kulono assured employees that his administration will be built on the principles of discipline, fairness, and teamwork.
Let's be disciplined. How do we become disciplined? Punctuality. We must be punctual at work, and then we all lead by example. Very simple. I hope I'm clear. The second one has to do with fairness. I will treat everyone here fairly. This is the time we should build this institution so that in 50 years' time, we can come back here and be smiling.
Outgoing Director General Michael Achagua Luguje expressed gratitude for the support he received during his tenure and urged staff to rally behind the new leadership for the continued growth of GPHA.
This morning, I just want to use this opportunity to thank all of you for all the experience we've had together in GPHA, and then plead with you to give General your best cooperation. If you were cooperating with me, I want you to increase your cooperating 10 times with him. Because at the end of the day, every single progress that GPHA makes is for all of us our interest.
Brigadier General Tanya Kulono brings extensive leadership, defense, and legal expertise to his new role. Prior to this appointment, he served as Deputy Commandant of the National College of Defense Studies at Boamah Camp, Accra. Meanwhile, Brigadier General Paul Seydou Tanya Kulono, the Acting Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, later that week paid a familiarization visit to the port of Takoradi as part of his broader engagement with employees of the organization he has taken charge of. During his visit, he met with management, staff unions, and the entire workforce to reaffirm his leadership vision anchored on discipline, fairness, and teamwork. Addressing the port's workforce, Brigadier General Tanya Kulono emphasized the importance of collaboration in driving the growth of Ghana's premier port.
Each one of you will treat equal, no matter where you are. Equal treatment. No VIP treatment.
The Director of the Port of Takoradi, Peter Amubediakun, as well as the outgoing Director General of GPHA, Michael Luguje, called on the staff body to commit to the vision of the new GPHA boss towards the growth of the organization and Mother Ghana.
All I can see is that things have changed after everybody changes. That's why all of us go to we get retirement every time. Some even retire earlier than 60. That's the idea, to show that everywhere you are at every point in time, it's just a passage. So you should do the best you can at every stage that we don't look back many years.
The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has honored Colonel Benjamin Boamah, the outgoing Tema Port Security Manager, with a farewell parade at Agbozo Park to recognize his dedicated service from January 2023 to February 2025. The event also served as the official welcome for his successor, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Atobrah Bondah. The ceremony brought together former port security managers, military officers, GPHA management and staff, as well as industry stakeholders who gathered to celebrate Colonel Boamah's contributions to the security and safety of the port environment. In her remarks, Director of Port Tema, Sandro Puku, commended Colonel Boamah for his exceptional leadership, highlighting his commitment to discipline and operational efficiency.
We are here to honor a soldier, a professional, for his sense of leadership, his sense of discipline, and his sense of fairness. We are here to honor Colonel Benjamin Boamah. He came to GPHA in January 2023, and I have to say for the last 2 years, his impact has been wonderful. And we want to say thank you to you for what you have done.
Colonel Boamah, in his farewell speech, thanked the GPHA leadership, his colleagues, and the security personnel for their unwavering support during his tenure.
First and foremost, I wish to thank the Director of Port, Mrs. Sandra Opoku, for your exemplary leadership and unflinching support to me and the Security Department during my tenure of duty. I will forever be grateful, ma'am. I wish to personally acknowledge and appreciate all the past PSNs for your pep talks, invaluable pieces of advice, and prayer support. I wish to say that I salute you all, and may the good Lord bless you and your entire family. My profound gratitude also goes to management staff, senior and junior staff of GPHA, whose names I cannot mention here because of time and space, for your invaluable support. I am eternally grateful.
The event also marked the official introduction of Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Atobrah Bondah as the new port security manager. Lieutenant Colonel Bondah is a highly accomplished military officer with extensive expertise in operational command, security training, and maritime security. The event concluded with a symbolic handover as the GPHA Security Department and stakeholders welcomed the incoming port security manager to his new role. Meridian Port Services Limited has appointed Global Communities International to collaborate with the Ghana TVET service to launch the Alternative Livelihood project, an initiative aimed at equipping 100 individuals from 5 coastal fishing communities with vocational skills to enhance the economic opportunities. The initiative will benefit members of Nungwa, Sakumono, Tema, Bong, and Prampram communities. As part of the project, a baseline study will be conducted to assess participants' strengths before they undergo an intensive skills training program. The training will cover various vocational fields, including welding, cosmetology, electrical engineering, carpentry, and painting. Upon completion, beneficiaries will receive official certification and startup tools. During a community engagement session held at the Tema Fishing Harbours Canoe Basin, the initiative was formally introduced to stakeholders. The event was attended by community leaders, chief fishermen, the vice president of the Canoe and Fishing Gear Owners Association, representatives from MPS, officials from global communities, and the deputy director general of the Ghana TVET service. Speaking exclusively with Iron Port, Dr. Eben Enua Ama, a consultant and spokesperson for the beneficiary fishing communities, emphasized the importance of the initiative in diversifying income sources and ensuring sustainable livelihoods for coastal residents.
After this training, there will be opportunities for attachment. They will be attached to various skills, craft masters or industry to deepen their understanding. And for those who want to work for others, they can apply to work for others. For those who want to stay on their own, they will be entooled the necessary tools to start their own businesses. Within their training, there will be entrepreneurship training, career counseling and guidance, so on and so forth. So they can be self-sufficient, not necessarily depending on others, except for those who want to work for others. So this is a very fantastic, it's an alternative livelihood project.
On his part, Mr. Frankie Brown, the head of legal and compliance for MPS, admonished the beneficiaries who had gathered to make good use of the opportunity to impact their communities.
She will be because amena Bejianoto, you are many men, I'm a branch into other areas. In a young ladies, young boys, young men, be fire worker, naked ni ne word shune. It is a very important noko nika okay ohe womi ni ogbena obana o wana nuchumo ni wana nuchumo eke mokonye sakibo your company because bo onuchumo ni eke obaya hefe.
This initiative builds on MPS's long-standing commitment to socio-environmental sustainability. In 2022, the company donated 6 million Ghana cedis worth of resources to these fishing communities, including 2,000 bundles of fishing nets, 35 IMaH outboard motors, and 2 fully equipped canoes to help sustain traditional fishing activities. The International Maritime Hospital has launched its Cervical Cancer Awareness Month campaign, emphasizing early detection as a critical step in the fight against the disease. According to the World Health Organization, cervical cancer claims over 340,000 lives annually, with nearly 80,000 of cases and 90% of deaths occurring in low-income countries. In response, IMaH is intensifying its awareness efforts to promote screening, vaccination, and preventive measures. This year's campaign, themed Empowering Prevention, Protection, and Early Detection Measures, highlights the importance of a collective approach in tackling cervical cancer. As part of the initiative, the hospital is offering a 30% discount on screening laboratory tests and HPV vaccinations to encourage early detection and prevent the virus that causes the cervical cancer. The health experts from IMaH provided more insights.
Cervical cancer, as it has been presented, is asymptomatic. It doesn't present with any symptoms. By the time, by experience, you start showing symptoms, it means that it's late. The post-coital bleeding, abnormal vaginal bleeding and all that, it means that we have lost it. And you know the position of the cervix. The cervix is what? A hidden structure. We don't see it with the naked eye. It's hidden. So until something happens, you will not be able to detect it. And it's been found that the pap smear is the only way for you to have what? Abnormal cells collected.
Cervical cancer starts with precancerous lesions, and that's what we tend to detect and then prevent cancer. So it starts with precursor lesions, which have significant potential to malignancy. And most of these lesions are asymptomatic, meaning you and I walking around, no vaginal discharge, everything is fine down there. We will not know that we may have the lesions that can lead us to have cervical cancer. So we know that we screen by pap smear, and the pap smear and the HPV DNA testing has reduced the incidence of malignant lesions all over the world, especially in the developed world, because for them, you don't have a choice. Anyone who has been in the US or has relatives, they know that you'll be sent messages, you'll be taxed to come and do your screening test, because they believe in prevention more than us who believe in treatment.
Speaking at the launch, Member of Parliament for Tema West, lawyer James Enu, reaffirmed the government's commitment to increasing healthcare resources and strengthening awareness programs to mitigate the impact of cervical cancer and other life-threatening diseases.
The President John Dramani Mahama, in his manifesto leading to the 7th December 2024 elections, promised a policy initiative to establish the Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund to support the cost of healthcare for persons with chronic diseases such as cancers, including cervical cancer. I believe this will go a long way to help in early detection, prevention, and cure for the disease, and thus reduce the incidence of cervical cancer amongst our women.
The initiative aligns with global efforts to eliminate cervical cancer through regular screenings, HPV vaccinations, and public education. IMaH urges all eligible individuals to take advantage of the discounted services and prioritize their health through early detection.
The Ghana Maritime Authority has organized a workshop to fashion out a national action plan for shipping decarbonization in Ghana under the IMO-Greenvoyage2050 program. Greenvoyage2050 is a global program supporting developing countries to reduce emissions from ships in line with the 2023 International Maritime Organization greenhouse gas strategy. The aims of this action plan would be to, among others, guide a country towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions and air pollutants in the maritime sector, and also tapping into the opportunities presented by the green transition agenda. Member states are expected to take an active role in implementing the IMO greenhouse gas strategy, including the development of clear roadmaps to advance the maritime green transition within their respective jurisdictions. As the lead agency representing the IMO in Ghana, the Ghana Maritime Authority has been actively initiating measures to ensure a just transition for Ghana. To formally initiate the National Action Plan development process, a national kickoff workshop has been organized by the IMO Greenvoyage2050 program, involving key public and private sector stakeholders to oversee the development of the National Action Plan. Addressing participants, the Acting Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Dr. Kamaldeen Ali, entreated all stakeholders to work assiduously and collectively to achieve the Greenvoyage2050 target.
This is a national action plan. So it cannot and it will not be a Ghana Maritime Authority document. It is a document that requires our collective input, our collective deliberation, and our collective adoption general. Let me highlight that we are just not looking at this strategy from the point of view of regulation, but it's equally key in terms of future economic opportunities. So when you look at the document, you realize that it has a number of thematic pillars. And while some of the pillars are looking at reduction, other pillars are looking at how do we as a country take advantage of the changing situation. We have to quickly then see how we mobilize ourselves to meet that responsibility globally, but also to look at the positive side and how we strategize to take advantage of the economic opportunities that will come along with decarbonization.
One of the project leads with the IMO, Astrid Dispet, gave more insights into the development of the IMO Net Zero Framework. The adoption of the 2023 IMO strategy on the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships outlines ambitious targets aimed at achieving the net zero emissions in the industry by 2050.
Oil spills overall has been reducing. So while trade is increasing, overall spills are reducing. So it shows you that something is working and regulations are working and are being addressed. And how green is the industry overall? And when I say green, I mean emissions. And I often hear it doesn't sound that much. It's substantial. It is 3% of the whole global emissions. And if you look at the projections, a lot of countries are developing more and more and more. So there's an increased trade that we're seeing. If you look at numbers of international trade, they have been increasing over the last decade and are projected to increase. So we cannot just sit around and do nothing.
You're welcome back. Those were happenings in the port and shipping industry in the last week. We are now zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight we're taking a look at the story you just watched from the Ghana Maritime Authority. That's the Greenvoyage2050, which is a global program that supports developing countries to reduce emissions from ships in accordance with the IMO-2023 greenhouse gas strategy. And you would have seen that there was that workshop here in Ghana, that's in the port city of Tema, to fine-tune or to make inputs into the National Action Plan that has been developed by the Ghana Maritime Authority. So stakeholders can make inputs into it so we can have a beautiful document at the end of the day. And so it gives me pleasure this evening to introduce to us some guests from the Ghana Maritime Authority in the persons of Madam Georgina Adia Nyadia. Absolutely, yes. Deputy Director Legal, Ghana Maritime Authority. She's also the chairperson of the Ghana Maritime Authority Decarbonization Committee. Good evening, ma'am, and welcome.
Good evening.
Good to have you, absolutely. Also joining us via Zoom is Mr. Numbu Ishaq Sumabe, who is a Senior Maritime Officer at the Technical Services Division, Ghana Maritime Authority. He's joining us via Zoom because he's out of the jurisdiction, and so he's obliged us, and we'll be talking to him as well. If you can hear me, Mr. Sumabe, good evening, sir.
Thank you for having me, and good evening to your listeners.
Great. We are happy to have you, Mr. Sumabe. Let me begin with Madam and find out from you, if you can tell us, we know the GMA, Ghana Maritime Authority, represents the International Maritime Organization. I wouldn't want to say the local arm of the IMO, but I mean, if you pardon me, can you tell us what exactly is the correlation or the relationship between the IMO and the GMA?
Thank you. Before I go on, I just want to say hello to the Director General, our new Director General.
Absolutely.
Dr. Kamal Dean Ali. Management of the Ghana Maritime Authority. Staff of the Ghana Maritime Authority, and especially the NAP committee members, internal NAP committee members.
Right.
The IMO, International Maritime Organization, so is the United Nations agency specialized in maritime issues.
Right.
It has the responsibility to ensure safety and secure shipping, prevention of marine pollution and atmospheric pollution. It is made up of 176 member states, and Ghana is one of them. So the IMO actually sets standards, global standards for nations.
Right.
The nature of shipping is such that we need to have uniformity of the principles or application of rules. So the IMO comes up with the standard rules, and every nation, every member state is supposed to comply and apply them in their jurisdiction. So that brings us to the correlation of IMO and the Ghana Maritime Authority, which we usually call the GMA, not the Ghana Medical Association. This is Ghana Maritime Authority. So the correlation is that the Ghana Maritime Authority is the focal body on maritime affairs in Ghana. So the Ghana Maritime Authority actually represents Ghana at the IMO.
Absolutely.
Yes, and the Ghana Maritime Authority, we have the statutory mandate to regulate, monitor, and coordinate maritime activities in Ghana. And then by our functions, they are numerous, but one that really relates to the work of the IMO is we have a function in Section 2.2 of our Enabling Act, Act 630. So it provides that the Ghana Maritime Authority shall pursue the ratification and implementation of international maritime conventions.
Right.
And so when the international maritime conventions are promulgated at the international level, then locally the Ghana Maritime Authority takes the lead in for Parliament, we make the necessary input.
Right.
We prepare the necessary position papers for the Ministry of Transport, and then the Parliament of Ghana goes on to ratify. Then after that, we go on to do the domestication of these conventions.
That's incorporating it into the laws of Ghana.
Incorporate it into the laws of Ghana domestically. So we usually just say domestication of the conventions. So that is the correlation. So without the Ghana Maritime Authority, definitely the question would have been, how would we be able to incorporate these international conventions into our domestic legislation?
Right.
And then so long as we sign onto the international conventions, we have to domesticate them. And in fact, in accordance with the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties,
right,
we need to fulfill our international obligations. So that is where the GMA comes in.
Right.
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
before I go to Mr. Sumabi, let me still stick with you a bit and find out from you. You were at the workshop, to fine-tune or to make inputs into the National Action Plan. How did that pan out for you?
Oh, then the workshop, the kickoff workshop, it turned out very well because as the discussions goes on, you would have realized what the greenhouse, the Green Voyage 2050 agenda is all about.
Yes.
And so as part of the Green Voyage Agenda 2050, we had the IMO reps from the Green Voyage here, and then we had a kickoff meeting at Tema. I mean, with all the stakeholders that we envisage.
Yes.
And it was a very good start, because the stakeholders actually made very insightful contributions, which we will be needing for the development of the National Action Plan, which is a plan for Ghana, not just for the Ghana Maritime Authority.
Right. Okay, so let me go on to Zoom and speak with Mr. Nombo Isaac Sumabe, who is, with the Technical Services Division, Ghana Maritime Authority. He's a senior officer there. And find out from you, you were also at the workshop the other day in Tema, and I want to find out from you, so far, what has been some of the things that the Ghana Maritime Authority has done in the quest to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Ghana, in the shipping industry, so to speak?
Yes, so thank you very much. So before then, let me just start with a brief on what the International Maritime Organization, which Madam Georgina has already talked about, because it is the regulatory body of international shipping. And as you would probably know, the shipping sector is quite indispensable. It carries about 90% of global trade, but it is also a sector that contributes substantially to the menace of the three planetary crises, which are climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. When you look at the fuel used by the traditional fuels that are used by the shipping industry, especially heavy fuel oil, they emit a lot of air pollutants and greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide and methane. Yes, and in fact, the shipping sector contributes about 3% to global anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions. That is globally. It is quite significant. And as you would also know, global efforts, such as those enshrined in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and its Kyoto Protocol, have largely been focused on national efforts. As a matter of fact, the provisions of the Kyoto Protocol for reducing emissions in international shipping and the aviation sector largely refer to the International Maritime Organization and the International Civil Aviation Authority. The 2015 Paris Agreement equally left out international shipping, and this is due to the international nature of the industry. Of course, if a ship is flying the flag of Norway, for example, and it sets off from the port of Antwerp in Belgium and makes a stop at the port of Casablanca in Morocco to bunker fuel, and then ends up in the port of Tema. With all the chain of travel, it might have emitted a lot of air pollutants and greenhouse gases. But the difficulty here would be how to classify the emissions to a particular country. So it is quite global, and it can't come under the jurisdiction of one particular country. So that is why we need an international body to regulate such a sector. So the IMO has taken several steps. Significant is the amendment of the International Convention for the Prevention of Prevention of Pollution from Ships, the MAPL Convention, to include the Safe Annex, which deals with air pollution prevention from ships. And then fast forward in 2011, the IMO adopted mandatory measures which are aimed at ensuring energy efficiency for international ships. So the energy efficiency measures here involved a technical measure which targeted new ships. So new ships were to be designed in a way that would ensure that they reduce carbon emissions. And ships were also to undertake an operational measure which involves measures that are taken on board ships to minimize fuel consumption and which will result in lower emissions, lower carbon emissions as well. Yeah, and so fast forward in 2018, the IMO came out with the initial IMO strategy, which would guide the phased reduction of greenhouse gases in the shipping industry. And with this, it was envisaged that by 2050, the shipping industry should cut off emissions by 50%. However, during the fourth IMO GHG study, the IMO normal undertake studies on greenhouse gas emissions from the sector. The report came out in 2020, and it was realized that if no action is taken and it is to continue as business as usual, it means that carbon emissions were likely to increase by 90 to 130% from the 2008 levels, which was quite significant. And so in 2023, when the strategy was revised, the strategy is revised every 5 years. So it was with that in mind, the 2023 IMO strategy, the revised edition, had higher targets. And among them, the carbon emissions in the entire transport work was to be reduced by 40% by 2030. And also it encouraged the uptake of zero or near zero GHG technologies and fuel sources. And these are expected to represent 5 to 10% by 2030 of the fuels that we use by ships. And also the long-term aim is to reach net zero by or around 2050. Net zero means that the amount of GHG emissions that are put into the atmosphere should be equal to the amount that is removed.
Right.
And so, yeah. So that is basically about the 2023 IMO strategy. And now your question as to what the Ghana Maritime Authority or Ghana has been doing so far.
Yes.
Basically, as explained by Madam Georgina, we basically implement and enforce the global regulations that are established at the International Maritime Organization. And as such, we have actually been doing a lot as part of our routine work, our daily work routine. For instance, to begin with, we have domesticated the MAPL Convention, which we now have as the Maritime Pollution Act 932, which includes MAPL Annex 6, the annex that deals with air pollution prevention. And as part of our post-state control activities, we do enforce the provisions of MAPL Annex 6. And so basically, and we do organize awareness stakeholder workshops on green shipping. In fact, in February 2023, Ghana hosted the first ever green shipping conference, regional up within the African continent.
Right.
So all this is to stage Ghana within the context that we are ready to transition. And as a matter of fact, it's not even a question. Once we are member state we are party to the MAPL Convention, we are obliged to implement the regulations.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Please don't go yet because we are with you till the end. Let me come to the studios to Madam Gina Nadia and find out from you why you think Ghana was chosen alongside, I think, 4 others, 5 countries in all are benefiting from this Greenvoyage2050 program by the IMO.
Yeah. In fact, why Ghana was actually chosen.
Selected, yes.
There are so many reasons why Ghana was chosen.
Yes.
But to give a brief, actually, Ghana has been very active in the discussions of IMO in deliberation. We take very active role in the discussions and the deliberations. And then we make submissions on the floor of IMO. Yes. It's not just only oral submissions, we also do written submissions.
Right.
Sometime before the committee meetings or after the committee meetings. So being so active, I mean, we cannot be missing. Right. We are so visible. So when the Green Voyage 2050 initiative came up, and then we expressed interest, they had to actually consider us to be included to get some of the support that comes with the Green Voyage 2050 project. And then as part of being active at the deliberations of IMO, not so long ago, we had a Ghanaian being the chair of the legal committee. We have several committees of the IMO.
Dr. Mbia at the time, 2 consecutive terms, I can't forget that, yes.
So all those things made us so visible.
The first black man to have achieved that feat,
to actually head the legal committee of the International Maritime Organization.
Right.
And then also in the shipping industry, Ghana is actually very compliant.
Yes.
Compliant. We have the International Convention for the Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for Seafarers. That's the STCW Convention.
Right.
So it requires states to actually put in certain measures in relation to the training of their seafarers and certification. And as you are aware, actually, we have the Regional Maritime University that helps train our seafarers, and then we certify them. So we have put on the white list of the IMO.
Yes.
And to be on the white list means that you are compliant of the provisions of the STCW Convention.
Right.
So all this played a role in making us visible, putting us as a certain pedestal for us who had been recognized.
Yes.
So when the expression of interest came for states to apply so that they could benefit from what the initiative has to offer, and we did, and we actually were among the first states to apply for the assistance. So our proactive actions actually led to us having been recognized and having been considered to get the support of the Green Voyage initiative.
Right.
Yes.
We have our own regulations and our own plans in terms of dealing with these greenhouse gas emissions and all that. So how does the Green Voyage 2050 dovetail into these local plans that we have, our domestic plans?
Yeah, our domestic plans, we have lots of a number of initiatives that deal with climate change.
Right.
I mean, we've all been hearing COP this, COP that. I think the last time was COP 29. So we have the National Energy Transition Framework.
Right.
We have the National Integrated Maritime Strategy.
Right.
We have the National Energy Policy. We have the Renewable Energy Act. We have the Maritime Pollution Act, just as he mentioned.
Yes.
So all these ones deal with specific areas.
Yes.
And then for the National Energy Transition Framework, there are some bits of maritime mentioned,
right.
But then it doesn't really spell out the strategies as contained in the 2023 IMO strategy.
Right.
And as I earlier stated, as a member state, when we have these discussions, we are obliged internationally to apply them in our jurisdiction.
Right.
Yes, in our domestic setting. So for the 2020 IMO strategy, it actually fits in. So it actually will be filling in a gap.
Okay.
It's more of a gap.
Right.
Because that will be dealing with the emissions and the strategies as a country and the actions that we will put in place to actually reduce emissions or address emissions.
Right.
And then doing that, it has lots of benefits internationally. At least we would have been seen as complying with international regulations, international principles, and what have you. And that is actually the trend. The trend is about green shipping.
Absolutely.
We are supposed to go green.
Right.
And then, of course, this strategy will actually come to supplement what we already have in the system on the environment.
Under the Green Voyage 2050 program, what specific technical support will Ghana receive from the IMO?
Yes, the technical support available under the initiative, they are numerous. First of all, we have the development of national action plans.
Right.
And then as in our discussion earlier, it was indicated, we had a kickoff meeting at Tema. That was on 11th of February 2025. That was just on Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes, so we had a development. And so because the IMO is supposed to help nations, actually let me say developing nations, it's not just all nations, developing nations to develop the NAP, they have to come actually into the jurisdiction to meet the relevant stakeholders so that discussions can be had to actually explain what the Green Voyage Initiative is all about. It is when you understand what the Green Voyage Initiative is about, that is what will actually make it sell and for stakeholders be willing to actually collaborate with the Ghana Maritime Authority for it to become a reality. And then also we'll receive assistance in drafting of our legislations.
Right.
Currently we have the International Convention on Pollution of Vessels, that's the MAPO. That MAPO, Sumabe actually mentioned. So we have the MAPO. The MAPO has been domesticated, I would say, in part. MAPO is made up of 6 annexes. So we've domesticated the 6 annexes, but the one that is very important to the Green Voyage Initiative is Annex 6, which deals with pollution, atmospheric pollution, and then emissions and what have you. So when we did our Maritime Pollution Act in 2016, as of 2016, certain regulations that we now have in place had not been entered into force.
Right.
So as it stands, the Green Voyage Initiative, the technical assistance they can give is to help us actually draft the regulations.
Right.
And then let me just add that for Ghana, we are very lucky, and for that matter, the Ghana Maritime Authority, we have lots of capacity building in terms of how to draft international conventions.
Right.
Yeah. So for that one, the efforts of the Green Voyage team will only supplement what we have. Absolutely. But definitely it will lead to updating of our domestic laws. And then we'll also have assistance in assessing the potential, the economic potentials of green fuels in Ghana. So there will be research initiatives to see what green fuels we can produce, what we can produce and what we can supply. And then this will actually lead to economic benefits for the country. And then when we have the relevant, if we are able to develop the right fuels and have this in supply, this can be a bunkering hub, whereby vessels will come to bunker and all that. And then there will also be capacity building.
Okay.
Yes, because the whole idea of green shipping is a new trend.
Right.
It's a new trend. What capacity do we have? What do we need to know?
Right.
So all these things, I mean, new things are coming up, capacities need to be built and what have you. So basically that's about it. But what I would just add is that the benefits we stand, the technical assistance we stand to achieve, they are enormous.
Enormous.
Yes.
Absolutely.
They are enormous. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. So let me go over to Mr. Sumabe and find out from you if you can tell us or walk us through the impact of the Green Voyage 2050 on Ghana's shipping industry and what role the ports have to play as far as this whole thing is concerned.
So I'll just continue from where Madam Gina has stopped.
Yes.
So she has outlined some of the potential benefits that the country stands to gain. And so we are going to, it will actually enhance upon our maritime sector. The Green Voyage, which the support that we have received is for NAP development at the moment. And as the conversation has been ongoing, it's going to give Ghana the blueprint to have a coordinated set of activities that will help us implement the strategy, the IMO-GPHA strategy. And by this blueprint, we are going, it is not just focusing on only the GHG emission reduction, but we are also going to undertake activities that will enable us to tap into the transition and ensure that we achieve the transition in a just manner. That is, in a way that will meet our development priorities. So in effect, the maritime sector is going to be more greener. If we are going to implement activities, for instance, we are going to undertake alternative fuel production to ensure that Ghana produces the compliant fuel in commercially viable quantities. That aspect it will be more economic, and also the other activities that will be outlined, including the training of our seafarers in line with the transition, and the training of the port workers, which will be part of the NAP, in terms of handling of fuel. The new fuels that will be developed can contain hazardous substances. So there's issue of safety, health and safety coming in strongly here. So once we have that capacity built in terms of the maritime workers, the port workers, the seafarers, we'll be in a better position to actually transition inclusively, and we will not leave anyone behind. And as to what ports are expected to do, so it's actually going to be captured under the NAP, because as has already been mentioned, it is going to be a national action plan. So the port authority will have a greater role to play, because when ships call on any country, they go to the port. They go to dock at the port. And so there are a lot of sustainable practices that can be adopted that will be adopted by the port, including the restructuring of the port infrastructure to make sure that the sustainable infrastructure is in place. We are talking about making Ghana a green bunkering hub, which will imply that we need to have the infrastructure available for bunkering of the particular green alternative fuels that we are going to arrive at as a nation. And also there's also the need for the port to undertake what we call alternative maritime power provision, which is in effect to provide clean shore power. And the shore power provision should not be from fossil-based sources, because that will not make it clean. By clean, it should be from renewable energy sources directly to the port, so that when ships call at the port, the level of emissions, they can plug onto the power source, and then the level of emissions can reduce. And other measures that the ports need to do is to improve upon their operational capabilities, to ensure that there are activities in place so that when vessels call at the port, they'll be that kind of like just-in-time sailing will come into effect, and which means that ships will not spend more days at the port. They will spend fewer days, which will mean that there will be lesser emissions from ships at our port, and it will not only go a long way to enhancing upon the Ghana's position within the whole green transition setup, but it will also have positive influence on the port community, because as I mentioned earlier, the emissions from ships doesn't only contain GHGs, but also air pollutants like sulfur and NOx. So all these have health implications on the port community. If we have cleaner ports, it means that the health and safety of our port communities will also be improved upon. So basically, these are some of the activities that ports can undertake. Yeah.
Yes, if I get your submission properly, earlier, initially you mentioned that there will be need to develop alternative fuels, that's, green energy, so to speak. And so how are we going to do this? With what organizations, what are the plans afoot to be able perhaps to collaborate with the relevant institutions to be able to get this to materialize?
Yes. So the key word is collaboration and collaboration, because when you look at the nature of the transition, which places emphasis on transition to low emission fuels, it means that a lot of stakeholders come into play. We are more dealing with about three main pillars within the industry. We are dealing with ports, we are dealing with the ships, we are dealing with the energy sector. And so the energy sector will have to play a greater role when we have a particular plan, set of actions regarding the production of fuels. I think it is something that the NAP can actually encourage the energy sector, the agencies under the energy sector to see to its conclusion. And so a lot of benefits are going to be derived, and we actually need a roadmap. And as Madam Gina was talking about baseline studies, this is something that we need to do. We need to undertake an analysis of the fuel types, or the fuel types and sources that we can commercially produce. So it will actually form part of the baseline study that will be undertaken by the Green Voyage program. So we need to do that first so that we'll know which fuels we need now, whether we are dealing with biofuels, which fuel blends that we have capability to produce at the moment. And then we tend to look at the long term. The long term will be more of the e-fuels, or the alternative fuels that are, or alternative fuels or green fuels that are produced from renewable energy sources. So we need to get the outcome of the analysis on the fuel mix that we are capable of producing. And then we try to see what we have now, what we can do now, and then we look into the long term. Because with the strategy, when we are talking about achieving net zero by 2050, it means that the long term should be it should be dedicated to the use of only zero or near zero emission fuels, which is what we need to have. We need to look at as a bigger picture.
Right. Okay, so thank you very much indeed. We are not going yet. Please, you stick with us. We're going for our first break. When we return, we'll come back and then continue with the discussion. This is IMPort here on Metropolitan Television. And tonight we are taking a look at the Greenvoyage2050 program by the International Maritime Organization and the role the Ghana Maritime Authority is playing, and whether that indeed is the panacea to the issue of shipping decarbonization in our country, Ghana. Please stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Good energy brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP. Available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a Goil station today and energize your ride with Goil Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. Goil Super XP will fill ya, huh? Will be feel. Goil, good energy. Yeah, yeah.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water, or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302-246-319 or 0243-690-492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, so welcome back. Once again, this is Iron Port here on Metro TV, and tonight we are taking a look at the IMO, that's the International Maritime Organization's Green Voyage 2050 program. They're supporting Ghana and some 4 other countries. These are developing countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And recently, the Ghana Maritime Authority, in collaboration with the IMO, also held a workshop to, as it were, fine-tune or make inputs into the national action plan that has been developed by the Ghana Maritime Authority. So that's in the studios tonight. Madam Georgina Adianyadia, Deputy Director Legal, Ghana Maritime Authority, also Chairperson of the GMA, that's Ghana Maritime Authority Decarbonization Committee. On the line or via Zoom is Mr. Nombo Isaac Sumabe, who is the Senior Maritime Officer, Technical Services Division, Ghana Maritime Authority. They are the 2 personalities we're having a discussion with tonight. So now let's take a look at the development of the Ghana's National Action Plan, and I'll tackle that with you. When I'm done with you, then I go over to Mr. Sumabe, and we can talk about the role of the port in achieving the greenhouse gas reduction goals and all that. And then we shall activate the phone lines also. I've been told by the production team that we can activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. Your messages are also coming in thick and fast. We shall also visit the inbox and read them to the rest of the world. So, first of all, Madam Gina, let's take a look at the National Action Plan for Shipping Decarbonization, what it entails, first of all, and what we have timelines. When are we supposed to be done with it so that we can effectively implement?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mona. So as indicated, the IMO has actually, from its perspective, detailed what every national action plan on decarbonization should contain, should actually entail.
Yes.
And then if I just have your permission, let me just one statement.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
So as I just indicated, member states are encouraged to develop the national action plan. And then the IMO GAG strategy actually specifies 2023, yes. Actually specifies 2023, of course. Actually specified in section 476, and it says that member states are encouraged to develop action plans, which will have to do with, will contain policies and strategies to address GHG emissions from international shipping in accordance with guidelines to be developed by the organization, that is the IMO,
yes.
Taking into account the need to avoid regional or unilateral measures.
Okay.
So that is where the uniformity comes in.
Absolutely.
So as member states, our national action plans, there should be uniformity in the sense that some of the terms that we prescribe or some of the terms we want to actually regulate or we want to do within our jurisdiction, it should be the same with other jurisdictions. Yes. Yeah. So that having said that, actually they go on to specify some of the terms we should consider and add into the national action plan. So we need legislative arrangements.
Right.
And so for our action plan, we actually have timelines to be able to incorporate provisions of the MAPL Annex 6, those that are not currently in the Maritime Pollution Act 932.
Yes.
So we need to do that, and we are hoping as an authority that we could do this in the next two years.
Right.
Yes, in the next 2 years. So we need to draft the provisions, and then it will go through stakeholders to Parliament and what have you. So
we're looking at 2027.
Yes.
2027.
Yes. And then as part of that, we should, in an action plan, we should have activities to enhance the energy efficiency of ships. And then they also prescribe we should accelerate port emission reduction activities.
Yes.
So it also has to be in the action plan. And then we should foster capacity building, awareness, and then facilitating the development of infrastructure for green shipping.
Right.
Having said that, our national action plan will actually capture these guidelines that IMO is actually proposing.
Right.
And so with that, our action plan would have 4 objective areas. Let me just add that this is not conclusive. These strategic objectives are from the viewpoint of the authority based on our expertise. And then from the kickoff meeting that we had on Tuesday with all the stakeholders that have come on board, they have the opportunity to also make input to fine-tune this based on their areas of specialization. So these ones are from the in-house perspective of the Ghana Maritime Authority. So we will actually have the first strategic objective will be to reduce GHG emissions at ports and then domestic shipping. And then I think Sumabe had actually mentioned some of the measures, activities that we need to put in place to do that. He mentioned shore power at the ports so that when the ships get to the port, they could actually switch to something else that would lessen emissions or reduce emissions.
Right.
And then we also hope to make Ghana a bunkering hub. And a bunkering hub, the bunkering is the fuel that the ships use.
Yes.
So when they come into the jurisdiction, they need fuel. If you need fuel to continue on your voyage, or you could even be transiting, and you need fuel, we have the hubs whereby you can come and bunker. This could be at the port, it could be designated areas within our maritime domain. And then, of course, for the GMA, we would actually put in place the necessary safety zones so that these activities can safely take place within our maritime domain without hampering the activity of ships in any way. And then we also need to improve the capacity of our maritime education training institutions. I mean, what actually comes to mind readily is the regional, and that is actually the main one, regional Maritime University. So with the green shipping coming in, decarbonization initiatives, we might need to actually update what they have or even put in place new systems altogether. Because now they will have to train the seafarers how to handle these green fuels, safety matters, health issues, and not just only seafarers. We might need other professionals, because it will be a diverse opportunity for us. And then we'll also, I think, another thematic or strategic objective is the creation of green jobs. So that actually fits into the maritime training institutions. So if the maritime training institutions are upgraded based on what green shipping has to offer, then we'll have the relevant training. It will create green jobs. And then under the green jobs, we are looking at how we can actually encourage more female, the gender-based, more female to participate in the green jobs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because usually maritime activities are usually male-dominated. Yes, but we have also all these strategic objectives have to come with specific activities to achieve them. But of course, these strategic objectives are not exhaustive. As I said, I believe we might be updating them and fine-tuning when these other stakeholders are making their input. And then for the stakeholders, we have several of them. Yes. Currently, we have about, we've been able to identify about 15, many of them government agencies, ministries, and we also have the private sector. We have ship owners and agents association taking part. And we also have the OMCs, that's the oil marketing companies. Because when it comes to bunkering activities, we already actually have these companies in the system offering bunkering activities. So all of them have to come on board for us to discuss the way forward. And IMO has always insisted and stressed, and actually as part of the National Action Plan development, stakeholder engagement is very important because there are diverse aspects of the strategy. For example, the alternative fuels, this comes under the Ministry of Energy. So we need them to make their input. We have the Environmental Protection Agency. We have and the Environmental Protection Agency, that's EPA. Yes, and then we have all the agencies under the Ministry of Energy. We have the Ministry of Transport. GPHA is going to play a very key role in all this because shipping actually starts from ports and terminates at ports. So they will be very important in the development of the National Action Plan. So GMA, we are just taking the lead, and then everybody else, all stakeholders have to come on board so that we'll have a very enhanced and holistic National Action Plan for all of us as a country.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so let me go to Mr. Sumobe via Zoom and find out the role of the ports in achieving the greenhouse gas emissions. You mentioned a few earlier, but just in a while ago. And I just want to find out from you what role the ports, particularly the Tema and Takoradi ports, will play in achieving the objectives of the Green Voyage 2050, and also how the NAP, the National Action Plan, will promote the use of the adoption of cleaner fuels and energy-efficient technologies in Ghana's ports.
And before then, let me just add to what Madam Georgina has said regarding the timelines.
Yes.
So the support that we are receiving from the Green Voyage 2050 program is valid for 1 year.
Okay.
Which means that within 1 year we need to have the complete plan. But of course, that is not going to be the end of it, because if you develop a beautiful document and you don't undertake the action, then it is useless. So the implementation aspect, as Madam Gina has mentioned, will take quite a longer period. And to the question of what role the ports of Tema and Takoradi will play specifically. So as you know, and we did mention, I think Madam Georgina did mention at the beginning that as part of the support we're receiving, the technical support that we are receiving from the Green Voyage program, the program will undertake port-specific emission reduction strategies, which means that for Tema ports, for Tema port, the strategies that may be adopted will be different from Takoradi port. So that there's a need for an assessment to be undertaken to see what works for whom, and so that will be undertaken, and then we'll see the needs. Besides, GMA participated in a particular project, and it's a project by the UCL, University College of London, and we did an initial research on the emissions inventory of ports, and we realized that the Tema port was the highest emitting port as compared to the Takoradi port. So based on the vessels that call and also how busy the port is. So that will also go a long way to enhance upon the strategies that can be adopted. That notwithstanding, the port operations will need to be streamlined. And I also think that the role of the NAP in facilitating all this, as part of the support from the Green Voyage, we are not into that model yet. The Green Voyage also help to source funding. They help to connect the countries, the beneficiary countries, with funding agencies or investment groups. So that is one way that the NAP can help, because once we get that support, we're able to get linked up with the necessary financing agencies. We can actually put that, invest that into, if it's port infrastructure, sustainable port infrastructure, we do that. Even that will also be needed for the green fuel production that we are talking about.
Right. Okay, so let's quickly come to, well, we don't have enough time left. Let's come to the potential challenges and opportunities for the NAP, that's the National Action Plan. I just want to find out from you, I'll still stay with you briefly, Numbo, and see if there are any lessons Ghana can learn from other countries that have successfully implemented shipping decarbonization policies. Do you have any examples to show and how they are reaping the benefits of this particular program?
Yes, so the success stories from NAP implementation is largely within the Western world. We can mention Norway, for example. Norway is an oil economy. The economy relies heavily on the oil and gas sector, but they've taken up that initiative. They've developed a NAP, and they've even gone about with the production of green hydrogen. So that can tell where they are now and the future that they've seen, that the future is moving towards a more sustainable use of fuel sources. And in Africa, we can talk about not particularly on NAP development, but initiatives that African countries have undertaken to ensure that they tap into the opportunities. So they are actually the first movers. We can talk about Namibia, who are into green hydrogen production. They've actually gone far. And we can talk about South Africa, same, they're also into green hydrogen production. We can talk about Morocco in North Africa, who are also into ammonia, green ammonia and green hydrogen production. So, but when you look at West Africa, I think that is where we have the gap. And if we are fast enough with our initiatives, we can fill in that gap for the West African sub-region, and we can actually get the upper hand to be the green hub or the green fuel hub that we can bunker fuels, and we can even export the excess to other jurisdictions.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so briefly, if you can also tell us how Ghanaian private sector players such as ship owners and logistics companies can be encouraged to actively participate in the Greenvoyage2050. We talked about green jobs initially. How does this dovetail into that?
Yes. So so that is actually one key thing that we are looking at. That is why we've mentioned earlier that stakeholder engagement is quite key, and the ship owners and the logistics companies are all key partners in this category. So ship owners have a greater role to play because it will get to a time that they have to use the compliant fuel, which means that they have to undertake retrofitting to ensure that they're installing double engines, or better still, they may have to even go in for new orders, new green ships. So there are a lot of ways that we can do to help them, because it is not an easy task. And one way, as I mentioned earlier, is to ensure that we solve the necessary financing to ensure that their needs are catered for, and also the logistics companies. So we need to also ensure that whatever businesses they are doing now, which is in line with the traditional fuels, more of fossil-based, we need to ensure that as they are transitioning, or as the industry is transitioning, that they have the capacity and they have the necessary incentives to also move along. Otherwise, they will lose their livelihoods.
Absolutely.
So these are all the things that we are discussing under the national framework.
Great. All right. Thank you very much indeed. Let me come to Madam Gina briefly. If you can tell us some of the challenges you envisage we might face in our quest, as it were, to implement a national action plan.
Some of the challenges actually will be about the implementation.
Yes.
And then for the implementation, we are thinking about, we'll surely have challenges in technological advancement. Are we advanced enough to be able to produce the green fuels? And then it will also come with financial challenges, because we need to have infrastructure, we need to have in place the relevant technology. And then the manpower. the manpower needs. Do we have the relevant know-how to be able to go around what we need to ensure the implementation of the Green Voyage initiatives?
Yeah.
So basically that will be about it. Yeah, the economic challenges, the manpower, and what have you.
Okay. All right, this one says, good evening. This is Isaac Asilfi from Tema Committee 3, and thank you for the insightful and educational program you bring to us every Sunday. I want to know if this Green Voyage 2050 program is the same as biofuel solutions. Who will provide? Is it the same? I don't think it's the same thing.
No, it is not the same.
All
we
right.
have the biofuel policy.
Yes.
I think it's quite recent.
Yes.
But this is totally different. However, it will work in tandem with biofuels because
Absolutely.
the world is still brainstorming on what type of fuels we need for our vessels to use. So it will feed in with time.
Okay.
Yes, relevant ones.
Okay. This one says, good evening, good discussion. Please ask Council, what are the potential economic benefits of decarbonization for Ghana's maritime sector, including cost savings and new business opportunities? This one is from Engineer Nati.
Yeah, in fact, there are several opportunities. I actually earlier mentioned the OMCs,
yes,
the oil marketing companies,
yes,
and then the bunkering activities.
Yeah.
So this will actually bring on board private companies,
yes,
or maybe government companies. And from the discussion so far, going green
yes,
will be cost intensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cost intensive.
Absolutely.
So we might need public-private partnerships
yes,
to be able to achieve this. But
right,
definitely, it's government that will take the lead.
Okay.
And then I'm sure at the right time, the concessions and what have you will be discussed as we go on.
All right. Our time is up, so but these messages will take them so that they can watch the abridged version for the answers. This one says, it's from Kwabna. He says, considering that many sub-Saharan African countries are just beginning to explore oil on a full scale, why should we prioritize decarbonization now? Wouldn't it be more practical to first maximize our natural resources for economic growth before committing to emission reduction targets? And Alfred in Spintax says, has there been a cost analysis of how much impact decarbonization efforts will have on shipping operations in Ghana? And then the last one is from Minta in Cape Coast. He says, we heard January this year was the hottest year recorded. With the impact of climate change, are we moving rapidly enough as a globe with decarbonization efforts? Well, we'll bring you the responses in our abridged version on GTV on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Make a date. We'll get Madam Nko to profile some responses so that we can share with you. And so we'd like to say a big thanks to Madam Georgina Adia, Deputy Director, Legal, Ghana Maritime Authority. She's also the chairperson of the Ghana Maritime Authority Decarbonization Committee. And indeed, Mr. Nombo Isaac Sumabe, Senior Maritime Officer, Technical Services Division, Ghana Maritime Authority, who joined us via Zoom. Thank you very much, sir, for making time. Thank you very much indeed, madam, for obliging us.
Thank you,
we know
Mr.
we
Mona.
work in tandem with Ghana Maritime Authority, so anytime we call you and the time is there, you'd always oblige us on our port. We say a big thanks to our sponsors, that's Ghana Revenue Authority, Well PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. Remember, the show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA. We entreat you to keep watching the rest of our programs here, and God willing, next week Sunday we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of your favorite Our Port program. And remember, once again, that the abridged version will be aired on Ghana Television on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. My name is Kennedy Mona. We wish you a super week ahead, and thank you so much for choosing us. Have a wonderful evening, and thanks.